Professor, PG Department of English, Don Bosco College, Kottayam. Hello students, in this lecture, I deal with Italo Calvino's novel, If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. Italo Calvino, an Italian journalist, short story writer and novelist, whose whimsical and imaginative fables made him one of the most important Italian fiction writers in the 20th century. Two of Calvino's first fictional works were inspired by his participation in the Italian resistance. For example, the neorealistic novel The Path to the Nest of Spiders. Calvino turned decisively to fantasy and allegory in the 1950s, producing the three fantastic tales that brought him international acclaim. Example, The Bear and the Trees. The later novels, Invisible Cities, The Castle of Crows Destinies, and If on a Winter's Night a Traveller, Calvino uses playfully innovative structures and shifting viewpoints in order to examine the nature of chance, coincidence, and change. If on a Winter's Night a Traveller is an avant-garde novel by Italo Calvino. Here, the writer used shifting structures, a succession of tales, and different points of view. The book probes the nature of change, coincidence, and chance, and the interdependence of fiction and reality. It examines living and reading as interchangeable metaphors for each other. It also investigated the expectations of the reader, the intentions of the author, and the tension between the two. I hope it is clear this far. Now I discuss the literary elements. If on a Winter's Night a Traveller is a postmodernist fiction, and its tone and mood. Its tone and mood are philosophical, satirical, and confusing. Then, when we analyze the narrative point of view, it is the most important stylistic aspects of If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. The numbered chapters are generally written in second-person narration, meaning the author addresses the reader directly. However, the reader being addressed by the author is actually a character in the story, with defining characteristics such as gender and beliefs. In addition, one numbered chapter is written as a diary using the first person. The chapters with names such as Outside the Town of Malbork are short stories, completely distinct from the numbered chapters. These stories are generally written with first person narration. Next topic, major characters. Due to its modernist structure and meta-narrative plot, the reader is Calvino's main character. He does not try to employ a universal reader. However, as a novel needs at least a semi-specific viewpoint, so the you here refers to a middle-aged single man who is a fairly enthusiastic reader and is drawn to pretty, mysterious women. This may be a criticism of the assumed readership of novels at this time, as women in novels were often treated as sex objects for the appetites of this average reader rather than individual protagonists whose perspectives could be related to by the reader. The reader is also the sort of person who, on principle, no longer expects anything of anything, suggesting a certain level of disappointment or disenchantment with his life. The only risk he takes is getting invested in books. The character Ludmilla is treated as an object in the novel. Ludmilla, or the second reader, clearly sees the world in a different way from the reader. This is shown through her approach to books. Contrary to the reader's practical expectations for clear plot lines and interesting characters, Ludmilla has complicated and sometimes contradictory expectations for the books she reads to have a specific mix of reality and fantasy. Ludmilla is certainly more open-minded in her reading than her sister Lotaria. Next character, Lotaria. Lotaria is Ludmilla's sister, an academic who is far more socially aggressive towards others as well as more politically motivated. She approaches books in an analytical manner, looking for their themes and counting their use of words in order to force them into her personal theories. As opposed to Ludmilla's open mindedness, she reads with an agenda. Another character, Ermes Marana, he is a duplicitous translator whose false translations and counterfeit books create the numerous interrupted readings that make up the novel of On a Winter's Night, A Traveller. Next character, Silas Flannery. He is an aging author who considers himself to be a sellout, as he has been using a successful formula for writing best-selling detective books for years and allowing brands to advertise themselves in those books for money. This shameless superficiality only brings him mystery. The character conveys Calvino's message about the importance of artistic integrity. Next character, the professor. He is an eccentric academic who admits to the lack of appeal of his department. Now I discuss the major themes. First one, reading. One of the main themes of If on a Winter's Night a Traveller is reading. The novel probes what kinds of books are best, what ways of reading are best, and what a reader's relationship is to the books they read. The novel opens with Calvino playfully instructing the reader on how to read his book. Relax, concentrate. Best to close the door. The TV is always on in the next room. From the first page, it is communicated that reading should be an act of pleasure rather than obligation. Throughout the book, dialogue between characters about books and reading is used to expose the reader to different views on reading. Next theme, writing and authorship. In complement to the theme of reading, writing is a distinct and important theme in If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. As a work of metafiction, Calvino's authorial choices are more in the spotlight than in traditional novels. Calvino underscores the importance of viewing him as a writer early in the novel by having the reader discuss his style. The reader states that the book he begins to read doesn't seem to be Calvino's usual style, but that the author is known as an author who changes greatly from one book to the next. Calvino not only puts his own stylistic choices on display, but he also deepens the conversation about authorship by including characters such as Silas Flannery, Ermes Marana, who are involved in the writing and production of novels. The theme of gender in If on a Winter's Night a Traveller is a subject of some controversy, particularly because of opposing viewpoints on Calvino's treatment of females. Some feel that Calvino is misogynistic in his assumption of a male reader and portrayal of female characters, while others argue that these stylistic choices are purposeful and satirical. In addition to the matter of the main character is that of male and female character in the book in general, every story within a story in If on a Winter's Night a Traveller has a male narrator, and often the female characters in the books serve only as romantic objects. Next theme, academia. The characters of Professor and Lotaria are central to Calvino's description of the theme academia in If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. Professor represents the older academic's disconnect from reality. He himself states that his department should be abolished since it is a dead department of a dead literature in a dead language. Next theme, love. The novel shows that people seek what they desire in their own lives in literature. And in the case of this novel's main character, that desire was love and stability. Discuss the themes falsehood and translation. The theme of falsification is most present through the actions of Ermes Marana. Marana is supposedly a translator, but he actually makes it his quest to switch around authors, titles, stories, and sometimes even characters and locations so that the entire literature industry becomes falsified. Next, translation. If on a Windows Needed Traveler shows the power and difficulty of translation. Now I discuss If on a Windows Needed Traveler is a postmodernist novel. If on a Windows Needed Traveler is considered a postmodernist novel. So what does this mean? Postmodernism was a Western mid-20th century philosophical movement. Modernism stemmed from the Enlightenment and advancement in science and technology. As such, modernism and modernist literature are based upon beliefs in the importance of science, rationality, ethics, and optimism. In contrast, postmodernism, which developed as a prominent philosophy in the aftermath of the World War II, is much more cynical. Postmodern thinkers generally believe that there is no universal truth or deeper meaning to life. Rather than advocate for science and rationality, postmodernists put forth the view that all things are irrational. Postmodern literature often uses satire, unreliable narrators, metafiction, and fragmental style to challenge readers' beliefs about life and literature. Authors writing during the era following the World War II did not necessarily self-identify as postmodern, but the values of postmodernism and reactivity to modernism can be seen spanning many of the genres that emerged during the post-war period, including theatre of the absurd and magical realism. Famous authors who have been categorized as postmodern include Samuel Beckett, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and Italo Calvino. Aspects of If on a Windows Needed Traveler that mark it as a postmodernist novel are the fragmental style of the novel, the innovative and jarring narrative style, and the use of metafiction. I hope you understand this lecture. Today's assignment: Italo Calvino's If on a Windows Needed Traveler is a postmodern novel. Explain. Thank you.